Hello again, I am Blunty. Are you looking forward to the releases of the new Pokemon games? Pokemon Shining Diamond, no wait, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Shining Diamond, Brilliant Pearl. I keep forgetting which way around it is. They're not very catchy names this time around. I'm pretty sure it's Brilliant Diamond, right? Anyway, the remakes of Diamond and Pearl. Looking forward to them. We'll be streaming tomorrow, and as you can see, I've been working on a special stream layout just for the game because I love Pokemon. Always have, well, not always have done, but if you want to hear the whole story on that, come into the stream and ask me about it. But either way, looking forward to playing through the game. By the time we get to the end of the game, there's a couple of hoops we've got to jump through to get a special application for our special little in-game smartwatch that'll let us do a special kind of shiny hunting. And I decided to, once I finished up my stream layout, decided to look into this method of shiny hunting. Has it changed in the remakes? Have they fiddled with it? Is the technique still the same? And as we know, the games are leaked out there. There are people playing leaked ROMs already on hack switches or on emulators and stuff like that. So I decided to look into what information there was around about the shiny hunting technique because, well, in every different game, the technique's slightly different, sometimes very different, but you have to do it in a very specific way usually to get the best odds. Natural shiny hunting odds are 1 in 4,096 in the modern games. It used to be twice as bad as that in the older games, but it's not so bad today by comparison. But there are special hunting techniques you can use to reduce those rates down quite a lot. And in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, if you do the technique perfectly and you get lucky, you can bring your odds in finding a shiny Pokemon down to 1 in 99 apparently, which is fantastic. The bad news is it's a tremendous pain in the ass, and even if you do it perfectly, you can still get boned along the way. So let me read you from a how-to guide that I found on Reddit as I was researching the way the shiny hunting technique works these days. So this is from a user called Athena, posted 5 days ago. It's been updated a couple of times since then as more information has come to light. So let's have a look here. I'll be sharing a simple, straightforward guide to everything I know about Poké Radar and how you can successfully chain in these games with it. For the most part, the Poké Radar works in the same way as it did before. However, Masuda, that's one of the guys who works at Game Freak, has definitely made some changes to his Poké Radar. I don't know whether Masuda is responsible for this because Game Freak aren't doing the remakes. The remakes have been farmed out to a separate developer. So Masuda, who works for Game Freak, may or may not have had any direct impact on this, but Masuda is one of the guys responsible for a lot of the stuff in the games relating to shiny hunts, along with other stuff. There's a thing called the Masuda method, which is a way of breeding two different kinds of Pokemon to get the best odds of hatching a shiny Pokemon instead of catching one in the wild. We call that the Masuda method because of that, guys. So if you're confused who that is, that's who it is. But yeah, again, whether or not he had anything directly to do with the adjustments made to this technique, I don't know. I'd love to know. If something is in bold italics, that's in the article here, it means it's new or different in some way completely compared to the old games. If something is stricken out with italics, it means this has been further looked into and it's not the case any longer. Number 1, in the step along the way of reducing or increasing your odds of getting a shiny. How to obtain the Poké Radar. Same as the old games, you beat the Elite Four and complete your Sinnoh deck. So you can't get this until the end of the game. You have to beat the Elite Four and you have to complete your Sinnoh decks. That means getting every Pokemon that's in the game before you beat the Elite Four. More Pokemon open up after that in the national decks, so you shouldn't have to do that. But you do need to catch, breed, trade for, otherwise obtain all the Pokemon to be rewarded with something called the Poké Radar. And then there's another version of the Poké Radar, which is what you need for the shiny hunting stuff, how to get the Chaining Poketech app. You talk to Professor Oak at Ramanas Park, previously that was Pal Park in the old games. Upon your first visit, he will give it to you. This is after you've already obtained the Poké Radar, because it's kind of like an upgrade. And you will need the upgrade to do this, because part of this technique is chaining together encounters of the same Pokemon, and this little in-game app thing enables you to do that. How to prepare for chaining. Preparation is very important with this technique. The same way as before, buy lots of balls like quick balls and repeat balls. Stock up on preferably max repels or any repel that you prefer. All of them are good now since the new repel feature with reapplying repels exists, whatever works best. That was good news. I didn't know about that in the new games. That's been a relatively recent thing in games. Usually when you do a repel, that means keep away a wild Pokemon while you're trying to track down something specific, or want to go through grass without getting bothered because you're low on health or whatever, you pop a repel. In the older games, your repel would last for X number of steps, depending on how good of a repel it was, and then it ran out, and you'd have to go into the menus and reapply it, and it was a lot of button presses just to reapply a repel. In more recent games, when it runs out, it says, hey, would you like to use another? Press A. Well, they brought that into these remakes as well, which is good, because that's a lot less fussing about. Then you find your target Pokemon, scout it out, and build your team around it. So just prepare to fight them over and over and over and over and over again, the best way you know. Get into position, pop your repel. So you need to find your target first, beat it or capture it. Once you do that, then you pop your repel and save the game, just in case you mess up and whatnot. And then you're ready to start your chain. How to start your chain? This is where it gets different, since now on BDSP, you don't have to worry about two different patch types. So what they're talking about there is when you activate the Poké Radar, different patches of grass will shake and shine. In the old games, there were two slightly different animations, I think it was. Or one might have sparkled a bit. I don't remember exactly. But there was a difference between the way the grass shook, and you had to target one specific type. But now there's only a single type. However, upon initial use of the Poké Radar, you can no longer just go to any patch that you want to start up and initialize your chain, regardless of the distance. Believe it or not, now your chain can actually fail before one and not even start up, even after defeating or capturing the first Pokemon. So that sucks a bit. Not too hard to avoid, though. What you need to be doing and looking for, make sure that 4 patches shake. So you're looking for 4 patches of grass shaking around you. Make sure you are going to any patch that are at least 4 tiles away. So if you're right next to one that shakes, don't hit that one. Go to one that's at least 4 tiles away. If you follow all these guidelines, then you'll be able to successfully start up a chain. So what they're talking about is chaining. When those grasses shake, that's the Pokemon you're hopefully targeting. So you go to that one that's 4 things away, you encounter it, you fight it, you either beat it or capture it. If you run away from it, you will break your chain. If you leave the route, you will break your chain. If you save and turn off your switch, you will break your chain. So you have to be quite dedicated for this process. Your chain should be fine if you just put your game into standby mode. So how to keep a chain going. After you defeated or captured your target Pokemon, make sure that you're following the guidelines in the last step before going on to another patch. So they're talking about the 4 blocks away shaking grass stuff. If you have to reset your Poké Radar, then make sure you're following these guidelines as well with it. Do not use your bike. This is what I was just talking about. Do not leave the route and keep your repels active. So if you accidentally let your repels run out and you run into a different Pokemon that you're not targeting for the shiny, that breaks your chain. If you want to have the most successful chain possible and have the best odds at keeping your chain, then make sure you're capturing the Pokemon over knocking them out. That's different to the old games. Usually, it used to be running away or capturing, same. This time, capturing gives you slightly better odds, apparently. So you're going to want a lot of those quick balls and a lot of those repeat balls. Either that or do what I do and level up a dedicated capture with a really powerful false swipe. One move, one ball, catch, easy. So you have an 83% chance of your chain advancing if you're knocking the Pokemon out and following the guidelines. You have a 93% chance of your chain advancing if you are catching Pokemon and following these guidelines. So when they're talking about a chain, your odds get increasingly better and better and better the longer you keep this chain of encounters of the same type of Pokemon going with this grass shaking technique, all the way up to a 40 long chain. So your odds stop increasing after a 40 chain. That's when you're at your maximum possible odds. But as you go through them, you just get better and better and better as you go along. But if it breaks before then, you reset back to 0. So your goal is to get to a chain of 40. But even if you're doing everything right, you still have you only have a 93% chance of the chain advancing. So that sucks a bit. That's going to be a pain in the ass. I don't like RNG busting this stuff up. I want to be able to work towards it and not just be kicked in the ass by a random dice roll. So that's a bit annoying. If you are capturing everything, you have a 5% chance to go from a chain 0 to 40. What else should I know? The new patches that are 100% contain hidden ability Pokemon, so Pokemon with a special ability that isn't one of the 1 or 2 types they normally have, can break your chain when entering them, if not within the guidelines. Shiny patches can still break your chain if not within the guidelines. Hidden ability patches appearing have a fixed rate of 1 in 128 odds regardless of chain length. Your odds of having a shiny patch appearing at a chain of 40 are now 1 in 99 odds as opposed to 1 in 200 like in the original game. So really a lot better odds. The other thing is when the grass shakes, it keeps shaking now. In the old games, they shook really briefly and you kind of had to memorize where they were before you had to walk over to them. That was a pain in the ass. And also, when the grass shakes, it literally sparkles and shines when it's a shiny. So that's a lovely improvement as well. So you know if the grass is shaking and sparkling as well, you go, well, that's where my shiny is. I'm going there. So you take the good with the bad. Shiny patch Pokemon don't come with their hidden ability. However, my theory now is currently that if you're very lucky, you can get a hidden ability patch combined with a shiny patch. This would be a very rare occurrence. Multiple patches can occur on the same ring around the player, i.e. 3 patches can occur 4 tiles away from the player. The important note about this is it doesn't matter which of these patches you need to pick, as long as you're within the guidelines. So as long as it's 4 spaces away, doesn't matter if there's 2 different ones 4 spaces away in different directions, just pick one, doesn't matter. You cannot save and turn off your game while the chain is going, just like before. That was true on the 3DS games as well. 3DS? DS. Most of your chain breaks will still be happening even if you've encountered the correct Pokemon and knocked it out or caught it. This is normal, especially if you've been trying to chain up until you've read this guide until now. Null spaces no longer matter and are not checked. So null spaces are basically spaces you couldn't physically get to anyway, which was a bit of a problem in the old game. You had to very carefully position yourself on the screen, so you minimize the null spaces that were displayed on the screen to maximize the number of grass shaky bits you get. Not an issue anymore, apparently. Shaking patches can't be placed out of bounds. You do not need to be resetting in the middle of a large area of grass to be doing all your PokeRadar resetting, as the game will now always try to place patches in valid locations. So that makes it a lot easier for positioning as well. In the old games, there was a few very sort of sweet spot areas you could go to and hunt in, where you could control where the grass was and where the shaky was. But not every patch of grass, not every route had an ideal patch for doing that. So some shiny hunts were a lot more difficult than the other ones. You can continue a chain after you've caught your first shiny, just like in the original game. So if you're after multiple shinies of the same Pokemon, you can just keep going. You can catch a shiny, go, well, the chain doesn't break when you catch a shiny. You can keep going and maybe get a second one if you're astonishingly lucky. Conclusion. What's different in the grand scheme of things is the PokeRadar is now more strict and less forgiving compared to how it used to be, meaning that there's more space for you to fail and break your chain even if you are following the rules, unlike before. The PokeRadar used to have a much better odds with chain advancement, up to a 98% chance of advancing when capturing a Pokemon when doing chain advancements. I definitely noticed this myself personally, as I've tried chaining the exact same way as I used to, with lots of success back in the originals, and I've already had lots of short broken chains with the remakes. However, it's now more rewarding now if you follow the rules of the PokeRadar and continue to, and it's without doubt that Masuda improvised it. Again, that's an assumption. I don't know where they're getting this from. Again, Masuda is not, it's not part of the developers who made this remake, so he might have advised them. He might have dropped by for a day and said, no, do it this way. I don't know where they're getting this information from. If it's just an assumption because Masuda is always responsible for this stuff, he might not be this time around. Who knows? He might have said something in an interview I hadn't caught yet, so. Either way, it's going to throw off more experienced PokeRadar vets and users, since now we have more of a chance for our chains to break, even if we're doing everything correctly and following the rules. That gets everything I want to cover. If I have anything else, I will edit in, blah, 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 blah. And giving some credits to people who've, shared the information, as always happens in these Pokemon communities. We, share as much information as we can, especially on stuff like shiny hunting. As opposed to the video the other day I put up about the Pokemon community, who I was talking about the really bad parts of the community. There are some awesome parts of the community as well, including this person and the people they've been working with to try and, group think these bits of information and just work together to find the best way to do this kind of, taking advantage of the game mechanics kind of stuff. So, there you go. Hopefully that's been interesting for you. It certainly was for me. Not something you have to worry about immediately. Obviously, you have to get to the end game before you can even do the shiny stuff, and by then there'll be even more detailed guides out, and I'm sure a lot of the dedicated Pokemon channels will have video guides showing you, step by step how to do this and things like that. This will not be the one and only way to shiny hunt. We'll still have the breeding method, of course, and there may be other methods as well. I've been reading bits and pieces about in your secret base, you can arrange your statues, your decorations in a certain way to increase odds of a certain encounter of a shiny or something. I don't know. I have to look into that as well, but one thing at a time, I suppose. So yeah, thank you for watching. I am Blunty. I'll catch you next time. Hopefully see you on tomorrow's stream, because I've got a plan. I want to share it with you guys. So thanks for watching. I am Blunty. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling above there, and I will catch you next time.